Can you imagine what would happen if both Islam Makhachev and Ilia Topuria were to lose their upcoming fights? Luke Thomas recently brought up this haunting scenario, Islam falling short in his welterweight debut against Jack Della Maddalena, and Ilia getting stopped by Charles. Oliver Luke called it an absolute disaster, and he's not wrong. Even though this exact outcome is far from likely, the implications would be massive. The UFC is already struggling with a star power drought. Pereira just lost Conor McGregor, once the biggest name in the sport, is too busy sniffing substances off questionable surfaces to be taken seriously. If either Islam or Ilia, two of the few current headliners with global traction, were to fall, it would be a major blow. But if both go down, that's a full-blown crisis. These two champions represent not just dominance in their divisions, but also fresh international markets and loyal fan bases. Losing that momentum, even
Topuria loses to Charles and Islam loses to JDM. What does the UFC do next with both? Boy, wouldn't that be a fucking mess, huh? Islam might go back down, or they might just give him, you know, one more like #1 contender to get back up there. Ilia going up there and losing, to me, is a little bit worse because Islam is closer to the end of his run, much more so than Ilia probably is. So for Ilia to go up and then just have that like blow up in his face, that would be a mess too, because you're now trying to build a global superstar, right? Which is what he can do, or get meaningfully closer doing if he ends up getting a second UFC title. You get much closer to that. If that comes undone, I don't know. They might book an immediate rematch. They might encourage him to go back to 45. I don't know. If both Islam loses and Ilia loses and Jones Aspinall never happens, I mean, you're talking about an all-time disaster of a year.
Michael Bisping. Can you imagine what would happen if both Islam Makhachev and Ilia Topuria were to lose their upcoming fights? Luke Thomas recently brought up this haunting scenario, Islam falling short in his welterweight debut against Jack Della Maddalena, and Ilia getting stopped by Charles Oliveira. Luke called it an absolute disaster, and he's not wrong, even though this exact outcome is far from likely. The implications would be massive. The UFC is already struggling with a star power drought. Pereira just lost Conor McGregor. Once the biggest name in the sport is too busy sniffing substances off questionable surfaces to be taken seriously, if either Islam or Ilia, two of the few current headliners with global traction, were to fall, it would be a major blow. But if both go down, that's a full-blown crisis. These two champions represent not just dominance in their divisions, but also fresh international markets and loyal fan bases. Losing that momentum, even temporarily, could further expose the UFC's current lack of new blockbuster stars. Topuria loses to Charles and Islam loses to JDM. What does the UFC do next with both? Boy, wouldn't that be a mess, huh? Islam might go back down, or they might just give him, you know, one more like #1 contender.
Conditioning is going to be key for Hamza, because moving up to 185, the conditioning will be improved. The strength will be improved. He can take on more nutrients. He can recover better between training sessions. I don't know why everyone doesn't move up a weight class. I said this on a video yesterday, and I'm saying it again right now. Everyone just move up a weight class, okay? The sport will be better. And do you know what we do? We add a cruiserweight weight class, 225 pounds, so the light heavyweights can move up as well. I think that is the answer to all of these problems. The fighters will recover, they will feel better, they won't get injured, they won't be pulling out, and we're going to get better fights where people are going for it and they can take better shots and land better shots. Anyway, since he's come up to 185, Hamza Chimaev is looking great. I'm just saying, against Dricus du Plessis, this guy's not easy to fight, okay? People talk about this herky-jerky offbeat rhythm, and he does have kind of a unique style, but you cannot say that this is not effective.
A surprising but intriguing turn of events that fans didn't see coming. Alex Pereira is heading to Thailand for a long-awaited link-up with Jon Jones ahead of his rematch with Magomed, while Jones is currently in Thailand filming a bizarre Russian reality show with Nate Diaz and even Hezbollah. He's also expected to get in some serious training, and Pereira will be right there with him, according to the highly reputable outlet Bloody Elbow. This unexpected alliance stems from their brief interaction back at UFC 306, where the two champions expressed mutual respect and teased the idea of training together, despite hinting at a possible clash down the road. Now that training session appears to be actually happening, it's a unique moment in MMA. The former light heavyweight champ teaming up with the heavyweight king, just as Pereira gears up for his second fight with Ankalaev Rematch. The Russian claims was offered earlier this year, but initially declined by Alex, with Uncle pushing hard to get a fight. and Pereira now switching up camps and energy. Things are getting interesting at 205. Meanwhile, Jones continues to be vocal about his frustration with the UFC, despite Dana White's assurance that he will fight in 2025. The heavyweight title unification bout with Tom Aspinall remains unbooked. Jon recently called out the promotion's lack of transparency, stating he already shared his timeline with them and questioning why fans are left in the dark, whether it's inside the cage or on a reality show. It seems both Pereira and Jones are making moves, just not the ones people expected. Stripped LOL, do I come across as the type of person who cares about things like that? Yes, otherwise you'd have vacated the belt a long time. Argo, because you don't plan to fight Tom. You're all barking up the wrong tree. I told the UFC my plans a long time ago. I have no clue why they haven't shared them with you guys yet. Khamzat Chimaev may finally have met his toughest stylistic test in Duplexi, at least according to two men who know a thing or two about both Chael Sonnen and Sean Strickland. Recently broke down the matchup. Chael raised a few doubts that most fans probably aren't considering. He questioned whether Khamzat will be able to take Duplexi down at will or keep him there. Chael pointed out that if DDP can defend takedowns early, the tide could quickly turn, but if Khamzat drags him down in round 1, things could spiral fast for the champ. Sonnen still expects Khamzat to be the betting favorite, but he's not counting out the South African's grit and underrated grappling ability. And then there's Sean Strickland, a man who's been in the cage with Duplexi twice. He echoed similar concerns in an interview with Helen Ye. While he acknowledged Khamzat's elite-level wrestling and aggression, Strickland made it clear if Dryas can stuff the takedowns and counter-wrestle, he wins the fight hands down. Strickland even added that while he personally could handle most of those on-quote effing Chechens in the gym, he's not sure DDP can do the same. But if he can, the former champ believes the belt stays right where it is. This championship bout is shaping up to be one of the most electrifying matchups of the year. What do you think, fight fans? Can Khamzat overwhelm Dryas in the early rounds and get an early finish? Or will the South African be able to counter the undefeated Chechen